Then we get the ANC manifesto, which says, you know what? We're going to tell you where to invest your money. And you know where you're going to invest your money? You're going to invest it in the dog show that is Eskom, or the dog show that is SAA, or
Transnet.
Anything else that we tell you to do, because we can help you manage your money better than you can do it yourself. And, and suddenly, investing in South Africa starts becoming an exercise in faith rather than fundamental analytics.
I think it's a brilliant point, and it's the thing that kind of got my blood boiling this morning and kind of over the last couple of days, because I think the one thing is it's really hard to get people in South Africa to save anyway, particularly hard to get them to save in retirement funds, because there is always this concern of access to my fund. If I put it in a retirement annuity, I can't touch it till I'm 55. It's a heck of a long time. Anything can happen. And then people like me sit there and say, you know what, government has done this, government has this ANC has done quite a lot since 94 to encourage people to save in retirement funds. They're not going to do anything stupid. They drop taxes, which the apartheid government had put on retirement funds. Don't worry about it. And then this comes out.
Let's be very clear about this. This is a wish list. This is a manifesto statement that the ANC wants this to be investigated. So the political party, which happens to be the party that is in power, wants this to be investigated as part of a mechanism to raise funds for failing companies, state-owned companies. Yeah. It's not set in stone by any stretch of the imagination.
No, so I think that the frustration on my part is twofold. One, there are no state-owned enterprises in South Africa that are where they are well governed, and there are quite a lot of those. The Land Bank right now is a great example. Not one of those struggle to raise money in the bond market. They have no problem with access to capital. So that has to be absolutely clear. If you pick up the phone to the CEO of the Land Bank, he'll tell you he thinks he can raise great money even without a government guarantee, because he's got a well-managed institution. Whereas the institutions that are struggling are the ones that have a history of terrible corporate governance, and the only thing that stopped that was not politicians, it was the bond market. It was guys like Future Growth saying, we're not going to give you any more money until you sort out your corporate governance. And now these guys at the ANC are saying, oh no, hang on, what we'll do is we'll just force it. So the one mechanism, it wasn't the politicians. That would be false credit. They didn't stop this. It was the bond market. Yeah. When the money stopped, then the party stopped. And guess what happens? Now we're sitting with state capture inquiries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This would not have happened without the bond market. And now they want to control that.
Most certainly. Andrew Cantor was very courageous at the time and was chastised by Old Mutual, which is his ultimate employer, and Old Mutual apologized for his stance. And I think he's been proven to be absolutely right in terms of the stance that he took in terms of refusing to lend more money into corrupt state-owned enterprises. And that's the problem. That's like people in small business who complain that there's no money to fund their small business. Yet you talk to people who are successful and they say there's always plenty of money for great ideas. In the world of financial markets, if you are a good credit risk, you will get the credit. You don't have to force people to give up on their old age pensions to fund you.
So this is what brings me to the real issue at the moment. It seems to me like we've got this battle of ideology versus let's deliver for the South African citizen. So as long as our ideology wins, the fact that our citizens suffer, we'll sort it out and we'll create a new law and do something else which will destroy business. And that's the issue that's frustrating me now. We should stop with the ideology and say what will get the poorest South Africans work and what will make them actually productive members of society who feel valued. And it's not going to be changing laws and forcing money to inefficient organizations. That is a terrible idea. And my biggest issue with this is I think unions haven't added a heck of a lot of value to South Africa in the last 20 years. This is one thing that they should be screaming about, because this is the people that are going to be most affected by this will be government employees. It will be the employees of very large retirement funds. And those are the bulk of them are working class South Africans who don't have a heck of a lot of money. Probably the only saving they've got in the world outside of their home would be their retirement fund. And now this ANC party is looking at this and saying, we want access to that. And the fact that the unions are not going ballistic publicly, it just fascinates me. Why, are they sleeping? Are they still on holiday? Why is this that they're not protecting their members right now?
That's a very good question, Warren Ingram. Mr. Lefifi, please get hold of that nice Mr. Vavi, and perhaps we can ask him why he's not gone absolutely mad over this. And I think, and let's get him on. Maybe not tonight, but we can certainly do it tomorrow.
And they were extremely vociferous when there was a whole discussion around retirement reform. And we were bleak. I was bleak on this show because some of that retirement reform I thought was for the better of all retired people.
But that was about forced savings, and that was saying that you need to be part of a retirement fund. And COSATU at the time dug in its heels and went, you can't force us to do this. And now suddenly, when there's a real threat to the value of assets, there's silence.
So let me get off the soapbox for a second. What I will say is I'm really angry with the ideology that's going on here, but if you had to ask me to put a probability to this, will this happen? I hope if the unions wake up that this will die a very quick death. And so I don't think that it's a big chance that it goes ahead. So I'm trying not to be fear-mongering about this, but if it looks like, and I think it's far too early right now to start taking drastic steps to protect yourself against something which hopefully doesn't happen. But if we're down, if they carry on going down this road in the next months and years ahead, and it looks like this becomes a real issue, then I think people need to kind of start thinking about what do they do with their retirement funds to try and protect themselves in some way. And to me, the one thing here will be, I think the easiest mechanism in law to put this in would be to adjust a law called Regulation 28, which says, it dictates how much money retirement funds should have in shares as a maximum, how much they can have in bonds, property, cash, local and international investments. And I guess they would tweak Regulation 28 to say, of the amount of money that goes into bonds, X amount must go to state-owned enterprise bonds. Now, if they do that, there's no mechanism for a retirement fund to not comply, and they have to report on it, etc., etc. But people who are already retired and they've got money in a living annuity, that would fall outside of Regulation 28. So I think the retired people, if it looks like they're going to attack Regulation 28, people in living annuities less affected by this because they can adjust their money differently. But I would start looking at very carefully at things that don't contractually oblige me to make savings. In other words, if you contribute to a retirement annuity, then contribute to one that doesn't force you to make a contribution for the next 10 years or penalize you if you stop.
But even the fact that we're having this conversation, Warren, is an anti-investor sentiment conversation. And that's what is upsetting me about this, is that this conversation is tough enough. Say to people that, you need to give up today so that you can have tomorrow. And people are looking at this and saying, well, I might not have it tomorrow because if my money is taken away from me and I'm forced to invest it in a place I don't want to invest it, well, then there's not going to be anything there, so I might as well just spend it now and have a good life. And that's the real risk, that the retirement industry or the retirement sector is undermined by this approach.
Yeah. And completely needless. And I think the one that worries me even more than that one will be people looking at this who are currently employed in a provident fund and saying to themselves, I don't want my provident fund attacked, so I'm going to resign so that I can get my provident fund. They cash it in, so now they lose their job, they lose half their money to tax, just so that they don't get affected by this kind of an issue. So to me, it's all good and well going on a roadshow to Davos to say, don't worry, there's this land expropriation thing is not going to be as bad as you think, blah blah blah. We're going to protect the Reserve Bank. Not a word about prescribed assets, not a word. And to me, this is just something that should be killed very quickly.
You've heard it from the Warren. Worrying Ingram. I'm going to change his name. I'm going to change your name. I'm going to rechristen you. I'm going to talk to your dad and say, please can we get his birth certificate? I want to scratch it out. Tipex, get some Tipex and change Warren to Worrying. Worrying Ingram from Galileo Capital.